bats and bears and bats and bears and bats and bears. I'm bats, she's bears. I'm batshit crazy, she's barely paying attention.
I love it.
Is this a real fan? Is this a real person? Okay, great. I love advice that we already figured out and made up, and now we're gonna talk about.
This is just a situation.
So
yeah.
I'm so glad we crafted this situation so we could give this advice. All right. So
anybody with anxiety knows this. Like, that's just a thing that happens naturally.
So
Primer.
Pat.
Oh. Yes.
You know.
Uh-huh.
So Pat.
So she works, oh shit. Or he. I don't know. It's a letter. They. Pat writes in that they work at like the small town lumber mill. And their boss, Gil, employer A, will say is Pat. And employee B, Sam, Pat and Sam. Okay, so 8-hour workday, normal workday and everything. And the boss is like, okay, Sam, you're gonna like do this paperwork and everything, the same stuff you see me doing every day. It takes like a couple hours. And then meanwhile, Pat is gonna like get a good start on all like the yard work, like lumber mill yard works, like not like and then once Sam's gonna like start on the paperwork and everything, and then like once they're done, they're gonna like join Pat with the labor. Right. What happens though is Sam keeping track of made up names is hard. Sam ends up taking all day on this paperwork. Meanwhile, Pat ends up getting kind of frustrated at the end of the day. Their feet hurt, they're sweating, they're like, okay, what the hell? I did all this work and they didn't do anything. I'm like, okay, cool, they were gonna do the paperwork, totally get it. But I was supposed to do 2 hours more than them, not 8. Sam is like, hey, let's go get drinks after work. Pat's like, no. What would your advice be for Pat?
If I were Pat, I would think about why this situation occurred. Like, okay, well, is Sam really shitty at the hard labor? Do they know that Sam wouldn't do the work and that you could do Sam's work and your work?
Let's say it's more like that latter situation.
Okay, so maybe, the other guy is lazy and you can do the work. And so the boss didn't want to give the work to somebody who wasn't going to fucking do it. They're like, do the stupid ass paperwork. You are not capable. And you'll slow the other guy. You'll slow Sam down, or Pat.
Yeah, Pat.
Sam will slow Pat down, and management doesn't want that. They need paperwork done.
Sorry. That shouldn't be that funny. Okay. Like, it's not that funny.
Okay, you got to think of it from management's perspective. They need to get the paperwork done. They know that if they give this idiot 8 hours to finish 2 hours worth of paperwork, they'll finish it.
Oh, so like they knew that this person wasn't going to be able to do the paperwork within 2 hours?
Yeah. And they're like, yeah, no, it's 2 hours of paperwork for a normal person, but like,
I already know you're going to take so long.
Sam,
like when people say that like the event happens at like 10 o'clock, even if it happens at noon, because they know that person's always going to be late.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean. Absolutely. So they're like, all right, well, you'll do the work. He'll slow you down. This paperwork also needs to get done. So we'll put the dummy on the paperwork and make sure that the important part, the actual labor, gets done. Paperwork can be a day late. People are depending on us to get the wood for their houses or their buildings or whatever. You know what I mean? They run a fucking lumber mill. They've got to do the shit. You also got to take a second and think, well, would I do the same thing? Would I take the opportunity to do 2 hours of work over 8 hours in order to not work in the yard and still get paid. Because I mean, who doesn't want to take a shortcut? Who doesn't want to take the easy way? You have to put yourself in other shoes and then make sure that you're aware of all of these things before you go into conversations. Because once you're more aware of these things, it's much easier for you to keep your cool, because you can be like, well, this might be what they're thinking. There's a lot going on with other people too. Maybe the boss just didn't even think about it, was like, okay, well, I got a guy doing paperwork and a guy doing labor. Everything I need to get done is going to get done. I'm a good manager. Yay. Happy me.
If the boss is a good boss, they're aware of what they were doing. They knew that Sam was going to be slow.
Right.
And they knew Pat was going to like get the work done.
Right. So
how like person A feels like, okay, how is that I understand the reasoning, but like, is that they still did a lot of work and they wanted to take a shortcut too, but they didn't get that opportunity. So like, they're still thinking this isn't fair.
That's 100% correct and absolutely valid. Absolutely valid. Now, I don't want you to think, I'm not trying to make excuses for the supervisor. I'm just trying to add perspective and knowledge. And this is all in preparation for a conversation with the boss.
Okay, if the boss did this on purpose, why isn't this person just fired?
So they go to the boss. And since they have other perspectives in mind, they can go into it with a more open mind and a more willingness to communicate and translate their feelings to the boss, because they'll be able to translate it in a way maybe the boss understands better, rather than coming at them with this whole only your perspective. Be like, I get that he's a shitty worker and you gave him the stupid shit because he's a fucking idiot. But that kind of irks me because I'm carrying the load. So this needs to change or I need a raise. This needs to change or I'm out of here. And I'm not going to help you, because it's not fair that they get to take a 6-hour shortcut when I have to go home with a backache and sore feet. Like, that's not fair. Fairness is important. And if the boss didn't think of it, not fair and needs to be discussed, needs to be talked about. The conversation needs to be had. So if changes need to be made, changes can be made.
In Sam's perspective, he's kind of or they, because Sam, I guess, could be a girl. They.
Doesn't matter.
So they are aware that Pat's irked. Sam invited Pat out for drinks after work and everything, and Pat was like, fuck off. So they're aware of that. So what would their advice be? Would they be aware that what the problem is?
So if Sam's aware of the problem, if Sam's aware of it, Sam needs to.
They're only aware that there is someone who's upset with them, but they don't know.
Then just go to Pat and be like, hey, Pat, I notice you're upset, and honestly, I have no idea why. Can you let me know? Because obviously you're really upset, and I never wanted to do anything to upset you. Kind of comes around to another point, is really understanding the term inconsiderate. And it literally means they didn't consider it. They literally didn't care enough to think about how that might affect you. Like, if someone says, don't bring your dog to my house, don't bring your dog. Like, you have to consider it.
Yeah.
And if you don't consider it, you are inconsiderate. And it doesn't come naturally to some people, and that's absolutely fine. But it's something that needs to, you can be thought about and looked at and analyzed.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're working with a team in any situation, like you're working with a team and, someone finishes all the tasks on their list and then they kick back for the rest of the day and you're like, hey, you were done with your list way early. Why didn't you help me with mine? Oh, well, I just didn't consider it. I didn't even think about helping you. Whoever's not thinking about others should friggin' start, because it really does hurt and it really, really does affect people.
And it goes back to the whole be a nice person.
Yeah.
Be that like fellow coworker that you want to be or that you want to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Be the coworker you want to have. Be the friend you want to have. If you're getting a shortcut, maybe see if there's some way you can share that shortcut.
Not too red.
That's a little bit too red.
Yeah.
Shopping carts. Putting your fucking shopping cart away. Not putting your shopping cart behind someone else's car. Not leaving your shopping cart in a parking spot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Try doing like a dabbing. That might help pull up the blush rather than all of the makeup. Rather than a wipe will take it all off, but a dab will just take the top. See? That one might need new foundation. That might just be your redness. That redness might
I touched my cheek with a wipe. Now my cheek is red.
Girl, communication is everything. And I don't know, I might need a whole video for communication and just blatant, ugly honesty can do for you. Shine some light on this dark, 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 dark world. That's how I feel.
So now we got a different one. Dear Bats. Except it's not really like you're like having your lunch break at some cafe and everything, and normal cafe chatter, lunch hour.
Mm-hmm.
But you got this one guy that's like on the phone loudly. So like everyone knows his side of the conversation. Doesn't matter what he's done. Right. Advice for dealing with an inconsiderate cell phone talker.
Look at them and just kind of give them something like can you turn your volume down, please? Like, just quietly, don't be an asshole about it. Be as polite as you can about it and see if they change. If they don't change, they're not going to change if you say anything. And that'll only escalate situations. So if you can do like a hand gesture to get your point across, anyway, if you can do something without saying anything to get your point across in a polite way, like tone it down a little. And if they don't, they're not going to if you talk to them. You could ask the owner of the location or management, say, hey, can you say something? This is really bothering me. I don't want to know about their conversation. I can't be the only one who's bothered. What can we do to fix this? I'm gonna, if you can't get them to do it with a gesture, you need to have someone with authority deal with it so that, there's not problems in the future. And also because you don't want to make yourself a liability. You don't want to put yourself in danger. You just want to sit and drink your coffee in peace. That's my advice on that subject. Do we have another anonymous advice question?
Oh, I've got like tons.
Oh, wonderful. This is great. I'm enjoying this. Let's continue.
So, yo, Bats. same maybe same person. Yep. Sure, it's the same person. It's YN, insert your name, reader, whoever.
Yeah.
Same cafe. You're there like, Saturday brunch time, you slept in, enjoying your Saturday, you go to your cafe and everything to enjoy like, a fancy coffee drink. You order your drink and everything, and barista like brings it out and everything, and it's not what you ordered. Like, but not like the wrong order, like that you could tell they like attempted to make that order, but like they did a horrible job. Not just like you're being picky. Like it's just like you ordered a coffee drink and it's like you can see it being watered down. Like you're not sure whether
so tell them.
Okay.
give it back. Don't drink it. Like, if it's that bad, don't drink it and tell them they suck. And you can be nice about it. You can be like, hey, excuse me, like, this is what I ordered, and this isn't exactly that, and I'm not gonna drink it. Can you make it right, please? Like,
Yeah.
Don't go up to them like, hey, you got my coffee wrong, you fucking idiot. That's some bullshit. No. Like, slow your roll. No one's after you. No one's intentionally hurting you. Nobody's doing this to you on purpose, first of all. 2, you can tell them that your drink was messed up without being mean. And also standing up for yourself as well. Like, you don't deserve the wrong coffee. You paid for a service they should provide. There's expectation there, and it's reasonable expectation. You can, there's like absolutely nothing wrong with that. Yeah, just be polite about it. And if you're nice to them about it, they'll probably be nice to you back about it and fix it, and maybe even give you more than you originally got. You don't know. You have to consider the world around you all day, every day.
Hey, Bats. After
Yo,
insisting on a spendy restaurant, then ordering an overpriced entree plus 3 $20 cocktails and a dessert, which they didn't share, your date claims they forgot their wallet, leaving you stuck with the bill. If this sounds familiar, you found yourself with a freeloader. How do you free yourself?
Okay, so freeing yourself from a freeloader. Continue to encourage them and support this behavior, or literally cut them out of your life until they change. Because nobody changes because you want them to change. Change only happens when you want you to change. You can't change for someone else. You can't quit smoking for someone else. You have to be ready to quit smoking for yourself, or else it will never work because you will still want to smoke cigarettes. I know. So,
Okay, what if this is like new relationship, like not the first date? So it's not, you can just be like, okay, that's not going to work. We're never going to date again.
right.
But like, you've been dating as like boyfriend, girlfriend, but like for like a month. So like it's new, but it's like in a relationship.
I would say get out of that relationship. It's not, there's someone out there that wants to treat you the way you want to be treated, with dignity and respect. And if you don't care enough to be treated that way, that's all you're going to attract. And that's all you're going to settle for. It's not worth the energy. It's just not worth the energy.
But like, if it's someone who, like, say 3 years, and it's just something that they've kind of started, it's like a habit that's been building up, then you'd be like, okay, I'm going to work with you by not enabling it.
Don't enable it. Absolutely. And, open conversation, open, clear conversations about feelings. Hey, I'm worried that if you're stuck in this rut that you've been in, I'm not okay with you being in this rut. I need you to either pull it out and do what you need to do to get out of it, or we need to stop because I can't encourage you to do nothing.
Your advice is requested on a partner who forgets a special occasion.
The first question is it like a chronic thing? And is it because they just don't remember? Some people are bad with dates. You have to consider that. Some people are bad with dates. That's just the way it is. Some people are bad with dates. Not everyone, not all the time. But that is something that needs to be considered as a rational reason for the situation. Is this person, are they bad about their birthday? If they're going, oh, yeah, it's my birthday next week, I totally forgot. Like, they're not the kind of person that's going to remember anything about you if they don't remember that their birthday's coming.
Okay.
That's just not that type of person.
Like if it was the TV show where it's like, high school students and the boyfriend forgets their 1 month anniversary, you can be like, dude, no. Like the girlfriend has no right to feel bad.
Yeah. No, nobody should be feeling any type of way about like a 1 month anniversary. You shouldn't even worry about 6 month anniversaries if we're going to be totally honest about it. If it's high school, like you're learning how to date. You're learning. Learning. This is not the end. This is not the end all be all for you. There's more, so much more to come. Like don't get stuck on that shit. In the early 1900s, the average lifespan, actually, I heard this on a Stephanie Harlow podcast, is that the life expectancy in like the 1890s, 42.
Okay, yeah.
That's like 130 years ago.
Subject line. Do you think that like life expectancy will increase first before, like, say 100 years from now, someone's like looking back at and going, okay, so at one point our life expectancy was like, hundreds, late 90s, and and therefore, this is going on, like this is how late women could actually have kids and like successfully and no health problem stuff. Which will come first as far as the medical scientific world that's able to just like keep people alive longer? Will that be the case, that things change before it being everyone has access to good health care, therefore the healthcare itself doesn't have to improve? Which one will like happen first to make it increase? Like
I feel like the rich old white men who have all of the power will not want to change the healthcare system because it makes them billions of dollars a year. So they will put money towards stopping healthcare rights because it allows women an option and opportunity. They want to be able to take a woman and trap her. I 100% believe that. Say, oh, now you're mine. So the people who pay for the research want to live longer. They don't care about anything else. What do you think?
Are you needing another fan letter? I have more fan letters from our non-existent made up fans.
Another fan letter, please. Another imaginary fan letter.
Some people have imaginary friends.
We have imaginary fans.
And I ran so far away.
So far away. I ran all night and day. And if your ex said they broke up,
it's Artemis, like just up on the shelf. But
who's the next letter from?
Right. It's so maddening. There are certain things you can't fix yourself, and desperate, you end up at the mercy of someone who claims to be a professional. Handyman, plumber, electrician, mechanic, doesn't matter. Are they trustworthy? Who knows? The truth is, you need them more than they need you. And sometimes they take advantage. If you get a whopper of a bill for a tiny bit of service, what happens? What do you do? In this situation, they like did their job. It just, the bill would say that they did this much work and they did this much and they only needed to do this much. They're just charging you for this much.
As with everything, talk to them and be like, this isn't reasonable. Obviously, always get an estimate.
That's it.
Always get an estimate. That way, when they do charge you, you could be like, hey, this is $1,000 more than you estimated. I can't swing that. That's some bullshit. And be like, hey, look, first of all, you estimated X amount and now it's way more than that. And, I will pay what you estimated. But if you're going to jack up the bill $1,000, just because you can. Like, we didn't discuss this. This was not what we discussed. This was not in the plans. Like, what's going on? We need to figure this out, kind of a thing. Work. The meaning of life is making it work. The meaning of life is being a good person, living your life to the best of your abilities so that when you die, people go, wow, the world is sadder with them gone. Because you made a positive impact. You make positive impacts, you change lives. You change lives, you better the world. Everything you do. Okay, so everybody talks about energy. And like, oh, well, if you put out this kind of energy, if you put out positive energy, you'll get positive energy, right?
Yeah.
Well, that applies to attitudes for sure. If you don't put good out, no good is going to exist in the world around you. You're always friendly to the cashier. If the cashier ends up being friendly to all of the guests end up being friendly and happy with each other. So now every time you go there, everyone's happy, even when you're not there, because when people go there, everyone's so a happy place. So it's not necessarily like you put out good energy, you get good energy. It's you create good energy and it will maintain.
Advice on moving.
All right. Advice on moving. Start packing a month and a half ahead of time. Not joking. You're going to start with everything in your closets. Everything you haven't touched in the last 6 months. Anything you haven't touched in the last 6 months gets packed up.
It's like holiday stuff.
Holiday stuff, garage stuff, top of the back of the closet stuff. That stuff. Pack that stuff up first. Okay. Next will be the less essential items, things that you haven't touched in the last month. Things that aren't within a typical 30-day cycle kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever you haven't touched for a month. And then, you're like, okay, I can live without this for 2 weeks and live without that for 2 weeks. Save the last 2 weeks for the kitchen alone. Because you're gonna want to take the time to label every box because it's going to make unpacking so much easier, because you think the packing's the hard part and it's not. It's not the hard part. Hard part hasn't come yet.
What would you say is the hardest part of moving?
I would say the hardest part of moving is probably the last 24 hours when you realize how much shit you still have to do. Because it's not just packing your stuff. It's not just putting your stuff in a van and moving it. You also have to clean. You have to clean when you leave. And that can take like a week. So if you can pack up your kitchen and clean the rest of your house the last 2 weeks, use paper plates.
Is it too pink?
That seems really pink. Considering it came out of this, which is like a tan.
Oh, like, it looks pink on screen. What's the easiest thing about moving?
For me, like, the easiest part of moving is getting started. Like, really getting going. Like, I feel like once you start packing a box, it goes really easy. Because, like, the stuff that you store is already in boxes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, this is easy. I can just put this here. This is going to take no time at all. No, it's not. You're wrong. Setting spray. For we are complete.
Okay. And cut. So